The Anchor Signal. Chapter 5. The Gristlehook. A parasitic beacon pulsed on the starling's tail fin. Red and sinister and pulsing, it sent a signal into the blackness of outer space. Come see. Come see. Its siren call radiated from the starling, beckoning dark and terrifying things at the speed of light. Things that Ray couldn't imagine, like the Gristlehook, one of the Night Spine's scrap retrievers orbiting a frozen moon near the rings of Kestrel 9. Gray and enormous and weathered, it looked like a swath of an industrial shipping yard had been wadded up and thrown into space. Off her bow, two gigantic mandibles made from ancient iron, a cutting torch, and a claw large enough to press an Aegis-class hull down to a nut washer. Draping over her sides, blinking construction cranes fished over the edge, hooking scrap and hauling it into her massive hopper. And deep inside this monstrosity, on one of its filthy bridge consoles, a beacon light flashed on a radar monitor. Starling's beacon. The Gristlehook called in her cranes and adjusted course and flashed her thrusters. Oblivious, Ray was consumed by the emptiness around him. It curled in from the starling's twisting steel and wrapped around his heart and squeezed. He slumped in the bridge staircase, exhausted and catatonic from his panic attacks. He felt empty as the blackness out there. The Night Spine boarding ship was gone, taking his reincarnated wife with it. Ray kept replaying the scenario in his head, hearing his wife scream, watching the thruster flares wink out of existence. What was I supposed to do, he thought. You heard how many there were out there? He tried to count them, replaying their footsteps on the metal floor. They stomped through his memory, horrible echoes. Had to be at least 9 or 10, he thought. Probably more like 15. Is hiding the smart move? Yes, don't be stupid, he said to himself. If I died too, then who would rescue her? This logic held for a little bit. It held long enough for Ray to check the emergency batteries, which powered everything that kept him alive in that moment. If you can call this alive, he thought. He didn't know what this plastic existence was. His mind didn't have time for such thoughts. Not now, because the news wasn't good. The emergency batteries didn't have much juice left, maybe a few hours. He forced his mind to propulsion and physics. It wandered to the water tank in the maintenance bay. What would she think of me, hiding in that box while they dragged her away, he thought. Was she terrified? Furious? Did I really mean to save her? He told himself that yes, of course. It just wasn't feasible. What could I do? He considered the 750 gallons in the water tank. If he could displace it somehow, it might generate some momentum in the vacuum of space. At least it would get him moving. He pulled himself off the floor and headed toward the maintenance bay. But where, he thought. No say over what direction, no control over speed or burst duration. Then again, moving in any direction was a small chance to bump into something. Minuscule as that chance might be, it was still better than zero. He looked at the valve. It was just a pull lever, remarkably similar to ones he'd seen at his work. Okay, easy enough. The tag said release in all caps. But to where? Did it go outside? It must. Where else would a release go? Another 750-gallon tank? Nobody could remember the last time the water tank was purged, but there was a detailed procedure for it with diagrams and everything. Normally, you would dock the Starling at a space station, preferably one with acceptable docking clamps, to hold her steady because 750 gallons of water is about 6,200 pounds of reaction mass. You would make sure that the area behind her exhaust ports is clear, and you would gradually release the valve until the siphon is fully established. Ray stared at the valve lever for another few minutes, weighing his options. Fuck it. He yanked the valve open. The scale of the reaction, pure violence. Like an air balloon suddenly set free, the starling spiraled forward wildly. It threw Ray off his feet immediately, and he flew across the room and slammed against a grouping of heating pipes and crashed to the floor. Everything around him flew off its moorings and smashed. Glass and metal and debris flew everywhere, tumbling. He felt a dull thud in his knee when he slammed against the pipes, and then intense pain. The water burst only lasted a few moments. It stopped suddenly as it started, and the starling's bow lowered a little, but the mass reaction kept her inertia. His idea worked in theory, but not at scale. He had no control. The ship was still flying through space in an uncontrollable trajectory. Ray tried to get back on his feet and check for damage, but he couldn't put any pressure on his leg. He was bleeding badly and the pain nearly made him vomit. Fuck! He crawled toward the bridge, toward all the flashing alarms. The entire ship was blaring as the hull creaked and groaned. It sounded as though she would tear open any moment and belch him into the void. He crawled. He crawled up the metal stairs of the derelict ship that sustained him careened through space, bursting at the seams. He crawled through a shower of sparks, his leg on fire with a throbbing pain. He could feel the blood dripping off him, and it felt as though someone were pulling at his thigh muscles with a pair of rusty pliers. He screamed. He pulled himself into the captain's seat, smearing his face against the backrest as he pushed himself up with his good leg and his core. It was an arduous affair, one that lasted several minutes while he writhed and twisted and groaned to get into the thing. Finally in the seat, he sighed hard and looked at the monitors. His brain registered the large green blob on his radar screen, but his mind didn't want to. It rejected the idea. Must be some sort of glitch. Maybe the screen got shattered. He heard a loud clang toward the back of the ship, and the Starling's forward momentum came to a violent stop. Ray flew from his seat and into the windshield. The glass cracked in terrifying spiderwebs, but held for the moment. His shoulder rang out in pain. The ship jerked hard on a tether and kicked him to the floor. They're back, he thought. Oh God. He started crawling back to his hiding spot behind the water tank. It wouldn't protect him from the scanners anymore, but he didn't have any other better ideas. His mind scrambled like a rabid animal. He crawled. Captain Sable Cragg was thoroughly impressed with his grapple thrower. Such good aim. That little derelict ship was fluttering around like a moth void, and he sunk that grapple hook into her like an old pro. It reminded him of the good old days, when Kanker was on the hook. He never missed a trick. Having secured their catch with the grapple, he gave the order with his portly tattooed arm. Reel her in, boys. An enormous wheel lurched to life outside and began winding in the grapple cable. They watched it pull the Starling into the Gristlehook's maw.